G'day friends and fans. Welcome to Dave Talks Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 10th of June 2026. I'm your host, the author, David Applegate. And as the war continues, I continue to bring comprehensive news from both sides. Now, so far, there is no agreement. Despite what Zelensky has said, there is no agreement. He is just playing to his audience. And his audience are dullards. Now, as we look around the map, there is a lot of activity. Kharkiv in particular got slammed. So did the Ukrainian positions north of Zaporozhye. Other areas got hit, but Ukraine won't admit to where or when, or even show you what's happened. Now, there is fighting in the southern districts of Kupiansk. There is sporadic fighting in other areas. There is very little advancing, but as we look around the map, the Russians have not moved out of any positions as well. They're on their way to Dupanilia. They're strengthening their positions in and around Zelesnky and that. They are still fighting in other areas. This was advanced yesterday. No change here. Still fighting in here. Sporadic fighting. Now there's consistent fighting in most areas of the front without much change to the map. No significant towns have been claimed by Russia today. Now, as we move on, remember, this channel is sponsored by you, the viewing audience. So, Empire Valves, that's one word, empirevalves.myshopify.com for your one-stop shop for fantasy-themed coffee cups, bottles, travel mugs, posters, and more based on my writing, The Empire of Elves. As we look at the news today, Russia did not engage in a significant attack, as I suspected they would. They have yet to retaliate, but perhaps it's going to be a big one tomorrow. Putin has, however, perhaps not retaliated today because he was holding talks with the Americans. Now, EU was holding talks with Zelensky and made promises of $9 billion by the end of the month. 9 billion euros, sorry. Ursula, always lying, is now going to begin the process of making Ukraine part of Europe. So all the Zelensky nationalists will suddenly become obsolete because Ukraine won't have a nationality. However, Zelensky once again interferes with the foreign politics of the UK, making threats to Nigel Farage over Ukrainian flags in the UK. Well, you would cry, and I don't care about Zelensky and his crying. Cut him off, okay? Let him suffer. He's just a cheap suit. And I'm sick and tired of him bullying other countries using the war as using the war. Oh, but we're your friends. No, you're not. Ukraine is no one's friend. Now, the US has not shifted position publicly on the Russian war. They remained opposed to the invasion, but they remain also committed to a settlement. And this is an old file photo, but Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner did have a call today with the Kremlin. Other statements from the Kremlin confirm the talks by phone, that there is no public statement, and they did not share details of their call with Zelensky. They promised they will inform Russia of any new developments. So the call with Zelensky did not yield a peace deal, even though Zelensky is saying that I got what I wanted. No, yeah. You know what he asked for and got? Air defense missiles and ascension to Europe. So, yeah. He's trying to start World War III. This is a march to war, not a march to peace, right? They attacked Russia so that they would retaliate. The media painted Russia as the aggressor. Most people believe Russia's the aggressor and that Ukraine is the victim. And European liberals embrace war, and soon as it turns against them, they'll say, we're against the war all along, and they'll start their peace marches. Like they are just round them all up and deport them. They like Ukraine so much, send them all to live there. Now, no talks took place between Trump and Putin. US mediation is still going, but the actual direct talks is on hold. No exact date yet when Witkoff and Kushner will visit Russia, but as far as I can tell from various other media outlets, this will not take place until there is a three-way agreement. The Europeans claim they are ready to mediate the settlement, but that's not what they're talking about. The settlement they're talking about is Russian withdrawal and payment of compensation to Ukraine, to which Putin has said the two famous letters F and U. Now, this is like the threats to Hungary, but I don't think they'll go well. I think her days are numbered, though European Parliament doesn't know what to do about her retirement. They're all trying to bitterly cling to any propaganda, right? They're relying on the fact that there are large numbers of idiots out there who feel sorry for Ukraine without knowing anything about Ukraine. And they don't want to know because it'll burst their bubble. They're like the idiots who run and hide every time the usual suspects riot and then claim that the usual suspects are all victims. They're just so propagandized by this utopian dream that all I have to do is wish upon a star and it will all come magically true. Yeah, Disney sold you a fairy tale, not a fantasy. Propaganda, gaslighting, whatever you want to call it. These Disney princesses, these spoiled, ungrateful brats who think life owes them and they owe nothing in return. And Ukraine is just one big festering pustule, remnants of the Cold War, remnants of idiocracy, a festering wound where democracy goes to die. Hate a democracy. It's not a republic. It's a oligarchy. It's the poorest and most corrupt country in Europe. And why is Europe so desperate for Ukraine? Because Ukraine has undeveloped resources they wanted to grab and put missiles 6 minutes to Moscow. and also so they could put strategic pressure on Belarus, so they could start chomping that off and just keep eating into further and further into Russia, because they want to break up Russia because its economy may be the size of Italy, but they can develop everything. They are independent. They don't need the World Bank. They don't need international trade. If it wasn't for, um, yeah, if it wasn't for the hostilities, they probably would. Europe created their own enemies with their idiocracy. They always, you know, they always misplace their anger and rage. They want to take everything out on Russia because they're too small to fight back. They don't want to take it out on China or India, so they take it out on Russia. And ultimately, it's going to backfire on them. Sooner or later, the world is not going to put up with Europe's shit. But it looks like Europe is slowly turning against the EU. And that might be the shift required. It'll be too late for the Ukraine, I think. But I think over the next coming decade, we'll see whether or not Europeans can pull themselves out of this hole they're in. It's created by the liberal establishment, the Macrons, the Hollands, the Merkels. The problem is the people on the right expect overnight change. They're impatient. Yet they won't be the change that's required. The independence won't be the change that's required. And too many people on the right rather go along to get along than actually fundamentally change as well. Those who want change are constantly betrayed by politicians who promise it and don't deliver it. And I'm telling you, that's why Putin is so popular, because he delivers on his promises. So I'm telling you, if he's promised a retaliation for the attack on St. Petersburg, it's coming. He's promised Zelensky will suffer. Trust me, it's coming. And I bet you there's a lot of people who are sick and tired of Ukraine who just sit there silently, hoping some form of leadership. Be the change. This war does not have good guys. This war has sides. Russia was provoked into the war by attack on ethnic Russians. And normally, in a cool, more calm situation, if it wasn't for the likes of Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, we wouldn't have this problem. Okay? We wouldn't have this problem if just once in life people stood up to the liberal establishment and says, no, we did not vote for this. We did not vote for your wars. We're sick of your wars. And, right? Democrats in the Vietnam War, we're the party of peace. Weren't you the party of freedom? Weren't you the party of slavery? Weren't you the party of Jim Crow? You're the party of anything for power. And they just smugly laugh and go, ha ha ha, and call everybody else idiots. People are sick and tired of you smug, selfish, right? While you're sitting there with your gender studies degrees, that guy you laughed at is turning off your power. Right? I don't know what childish games people think they're playing, but sooner or later, people are going to wake up and realise George Soros ain't on a side. He's just, again, why these people aren't arrested. Soros, Zelensky, all of them. so corrupt. No one wants to do anything. And the Ukraine war drags out just so Zelensky can get his way. Just so he can say, I'm the one who created peace. I got my way. Well, sooner or later, Putin may realize that it's cheaper to evaporate Kiev. And will probably expose the fact, though, that Zelensky's not in Kiev and he's not in charge. And then they'll say, oh, he survived in the bunker. Yeah. No, the only reason why Zelensky's alive is because he's a buffoon. And Russia puts up with his buffoonery because they know at the end of the day, they're winning. You may not like it, but they're winning. I didn't want them to invade Ukraine. I was hoping we would have peace with Russia. Putin would have retired long ago if Europe had made peace with Russia. Europe, however, doesn't want peace. They want a wild, fluctuating economy so the money men can play Monopoly every day. Their economy is a failure without chaos, about dragging the rest of the world down into the quagmire of war. Okay? Liberals are the reason why we cannot have nice things. They don't support decency. They don't support morality. They support degeneracy, chaos, and pathetic political narratives. And the brainwashed just keep using words like Christianity as if they actually know what it means. They don't. They paint a false Christianity to manipulate you. They use it to manipulate you like everything else. It's just about them having power over you. Stop caring what liberals think and start working against them because they've been fighting. They're not your friends. They're not your allies. They're not your buddy. They're not your countrymen. They are your enemy. And they treat you as such behind your back. And it's time you had no respect or no concern for them. Heck, be like Gandhi. All the people who collaborated with the British establishment kicked them out of the country. Every single one of them. World Economic Forum, every single one of them. Strip them of all their assets, strip them of everything, and dump them in their precious India or precious Ukraine or precious Pakistan or precious Sudan. But we will not see it in our lifetime because most people are always waiting for someone else to do it for them. So thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and please support the channel. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my book, buy my merch. Heck, the last time someone tried to save the world, the rest of the world just went to war against them, and that was that. And now people are starting to wake up to what really happened in the 1920s. See you in the next video. Bye for now.